Today we are diving into the core ideas of Guilherme Benchimol, the founder of XP Inc. This is a guy who started his company with what amounts to a couple $1,000s and turned it into a multi-billion-dollar giant. So let's unpack his blueprint for building something incredible.
Benchimol loves to start with this question. What is it to believe in the impossible? And look, this isn't just some motivational quote. This is the exact mindset that powered his entire journey, taking him from a tiny 25-square-meter office all the way to ringing the bell at NASDAQ. It really sets the stage for everything we're about to talk about.
So, naturally, his first big principle is just that. You have to start with a big dream. The foundation of anything great has to be a goal that, at least when you first think of it, feels completely and utterly impossible.
Now, Benchimol's take on company culture is really interesting. He says a company's values are basically just a mirror of its founder. And for XP, what's at the very top of the list? Sueño grande, or dream big. For them, this isn't just a slogan on a poster, it's the operating system for the entire company.
But here's the twist, and it's a super important one. This big dream, it's not a destination. It's not some finish line you cross and you're done. He talks about being an entrepreneurial athlete. The real goal is to fall in love with the process, that daily grind of building, getting a little bit better, and just pushing forward. That journey is the dream.
Okay, so you've got this impossible dream. How in the world do you actually make it happen? Well, for Benchimol, it all starts with the team. And he has this brilliant analogy that cuts right through all the noise about team structure.
He calls it the school project analogy. And you know, this isn't something he learned in a business school textbook. It came from simple, real-world experience, and it's such a powerful way for any of us to think about the right team size.
Just think back to any school project you did with, say, 5 people. What always happens? You get one person who does all the work, maybe one person who kinda helps, and the other 3, they just get in the way, right? But what about a group of 2? Both people work, there's zero waste, you just have maximum speed and agility. This is why Benchimol is always asking his teams, hey, can we make this group smaller and better?
All right, this next idea from Benchimol is one of my favorites because it sounds so wrong, but it's so right. To be a great founder, he says, you have to learn to be a lazy entrepreneur.
Now hold on. Lazy doesn't mean you sit on the couch doing nothing. It means you have to be absolutely ruthless with where you put your energy and your money. You have to go after the frutas baixas, the low-hanging fruit. We're talking about the opportunities that give you the biggest possible results for the least amount of effort.
And this creates a really smart cycle. Step 1, you grab those easy wins, the low-hanging fruit, to get some results and build momentum. Step 2, you reinvest that money to make your profit margins healthier. And step 3, only then with that extra cushion do you start taking on the bigger, more calculated risks. You know, the high-hanging fruit. So many founders get that order completely backward.
So this next one is all about you, the founder, and the personal changes you have to make. As the business starts to grow, Benchimol says the founder has to go through this really tough but totally necessary evolution.
And here's the kicker. The very things that made you successful at the very beginning, your hustle, your ability to do everything yourself, those things eventually become the company's biggest bottleneck. You literally have to unlearn what you're good at so you can learn to do the things you've never done before.
Benchimol saw this happen to himself. He breaks his own journey down into these 3 stages. First, he was the ultimate executor, doing everything 24/7. But then, around 2010, they hit 500 employees, and he had a painful realization. His hands-on approach was actually slowing the company down. He had become the bottleneck. And that forced him to completely change, to become a leader whose job, about 80% of the time, was just one thing: people.
And that focus on people brings us right to his final and I think most powerful piece of advice. He says you have to stop building a company of employees and start building a company of owners.
The difference in the mindset here is just massive. Think about it. When a crisis hits, an employee might start polishing their resume, but an owner? They're tied to that company, for better or worse. It's not just a job to them, it's their life's project. You just can't replicate that level of commitment. And he's got a whole playbook for how to do this. First, he actively went out and shared his dream with people he knew were smarter than him. Then, he invited the best of them to become his partners. But here's the catch. They had to buy their shares. No free stock options. That way they had real skin in the game. He also hammers home that going public isn't the finish line. It's just one more tool to help the company grow for the long haul.
So, if you boil all of these lessons down to one single idea, it's this. The greatest lever you have for growth is your people. Real, massive scale only happens when a founder can shift their focus away from doing the work to developing the leaders who will do the work.
And that brings us to Benchimol's final challenge for all of us, a tough question he got from a Harvard professor. Look at the key leaders on your team and ask yourself honestly, knowing everything you know about them now, their strengths and weaknesses, who among them would you enthusiastically rehire today? Benchimol says for most CEOs, the honest answer is only about 50%. The other half are still there because the CEO is too busy doing tasks to focus on what really matters, building the right team. So, what would your answer be?